Everything begins in the unseen world of imagination. Before any invention took form, before any building rose from the ground, before any book was written or any discovery made, it lived first in the invisible theater of the mind. Imagination is not a fanciful escape or a child's pastime. It is the creative power from which everything springs. The chair you sit upon, the house you live in, the city you walk through were once formless ideas. Someone dared to hold them within, to shape them inwardly. And then what was invisible took on flesh. The world you see with your physical eyes is nothing more than the crystallization of countless imaginal acts. When you understand this truth, you stop wrestling with appearances and begin to master the cause. Most people live as though the world is fixed, as though circumstances dictate their destiny, never realizing that every circumstance they face today was once a result of inner assumptions taken yesterday. The outer world is the shadow, while the inner world is the light that casts it. If you wish to change the shadow, you must not fight it directly. Fighting circumstances is like shouting at your reflection in the mirror. The reflection will not smile until you smile first. The imagination is that smile. It is the source. Alter the assumption within, and the reflection must change. This is not philosophy alone, it is law. And when practiced with sincerity, it reveals its power in the most ordinary of ways. Think of a time when you rehearsed a conversation in your mind before speaking it aloud. The words may not have unfolded exactly as you imagined, yet the tone, the outcome, the direction were all influenced by what you held inwardly. Life responds to what you imagine persistently. A person who continually imagines failure is unknowingly sowing seeds of defeat that the world will confirm. Another who secretly rehearses success, who dares to imagine recognition, prosperity, or healing, is planting seeds that must eventually sprout into their reality. What you accept in imagination, especially when you feel it as true, moves silently toward expression. To grasp this fully, consider that imagination does not simply daydream, it creates. It is the power behind every accomplishment of humanity. The laws of flight were always in the world, yet remained unseen until someone imagined men soaring through the air. The potential for electricity was always here, yet it slumbered until a man dared to picture light at the command of a switch. The principle of communication across oceans existed, yet was only unlocked when someone persisted in the image of voices carried through wires. The power has never changed. The same law that brought forth those marvels is present in you. To recognize imagination as the creative force is to recognize your partnership in the shaping of reality. When you acknowledge that imagination creates reality, you shift from seeing yourself as a victim of external forces to the very author of your experience. No longer do you beg life for mercy, for you realize life is reflecting what you have already assumed. No longer do you pray to a distant power, for the creative spirit is at work within your own mind. This realization may at first feel overwhelming, because it removes excuses and strips away the comfort of blaming fate or chance. Once you awaken to this truth, you can never again return to passive acceptance of circumstance. You become responsible, and responsibility is the doorway to true freedom. Desire now takes on an entirely new meaning. The longings of your heart are not random. They are not accidents or illusions meant to torment you. Desire is the voice of creation calling you to a higher state of being. When a dream stirs within you, it is not simply your imagination playing tricks. It is life itself inviting you to step into a fuller expression. Every desire you hold is already a possibility contained within you. The presence of the desire is evidence that the reality of it already exists. Just as hunger proves food exists, the longing of the heart proves the fulfillment is possible. The invisible is pressing upon you to be made visible through your acceptance. Consider how desire rises. You see someone living in joy, and a spark awakens in you that whispers, "This too is possible." You encounter a new idea, and something within you reaches for it with eagerness. These movements are not meaningless. They are divine indicators pointing to what you are capable of becoming. Too often people dismiss their desires because of fear, because of conditioning, because of voices that tell them they are unworthy or incapable. Yet the truth remains. The seed of desire is proof that the soil of your being can sustain it. If it could not be yours, it would not have been born within you. Think of desire as the blueprint of what already belongs to you in the unseen. It is the sketch drawn by the higher self, urging you toward growth and expression. Just as the acorn holds within it the destiny of the oak tree, your desire holds within it the fullness of its manifestation. You do not have to create the oak, you simply have to nurture the acorn. Likewise, you do not need to struggle to manufacture your dream. You need only to accept the desire as already yours and live in the awareness that it is unfolding. The life principle knows how to bring it to pass. Just as it knows how to turn the acorn into a towering tree, your task is to receive the desire with faith, to hold it inwardly with joy, and to persist in that inner knowing. Many people fear desire because they believe it will lead to disappointment. They protect themselves from imagined failure by suppressing the longing altogether. But in doing so, they deny the very voice of life speaking within them. Desire is not meant to torture you. It is meant to lift you. The ache you sometimes feel when you want something deeply is not punishment. It is the stretching of your being as you grow into the larger version of yourself. When you welcome desire, you allow yourself to be expanded. When you reject it, you shrink into stagnation. Desire is the movement of God within you, always pushing you toward greater expression, always urging you to live more fully. Imagine a sculptor standing before a block of marble. Within that stone he sees a figure waiting to be revealed. The figure already exists in potential, though the world cannot yet see it. His desire to create is the evidence that the figure can indeed be brought forth. In the same way, your desire is the vision of what already exists within you. You are the sculptor, and your imagination is the chisel that chips away everything unlike the vision, until the reality stands before you. Desire assures you that what you long for is possible. Imagination assures you that you can bring it into being. Together they form the secret partnership of creation. When you unite imagination with desire, you discover the true secret of achievement. Imagination supplies the image, desire supplies the fire, and together they compel reality to conform. Nothing is beyond reach when these two forces are understood. The world may say your dream is too bold, but if desire burns within you and you can hold the image faithfully, the world has no choice but to eventually reflect it. This is not magic, though it appears magical. It is law, the same law that turns seed into harvest, the same law that brings night into day, the same law that governs every rhythm of life. To work with it consciously is to step into harmony with the creative principle itself. When you see imagination as the cause of all, and desire as the divine impulse within, you stop doubting whether your goals are achievable. You understand that you are not striving to accomplish something foreign. You are simply allowing what already belongs to you to unfold. The world is waiting to mirror your conviction. Your task is not to figure out every step, but to assume inwardly that it is done, to delight in the desire as already fulfilled, and to persist in that inner knowing until the outer world has no choice but to bow to your vision. In this way you discover that you truly can achieve anything, for nothing is withheld from the one who knows that imagination creates reality, and that desire is the voice of God revealing what is already his. To understand the secret of achievement, you must first learn to live in the state of the wish fulfilled. The world teaches that success comes only after long years of toil, after waiting for evidence, after seeing signs that something might be possible. But the truth is the exact opposite. Nothing ever appears outwardly until it is first accepted inwardly. The law is simple. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and live from it until the outer world mirrors what you already know within. When you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are not pretending. You are not daydreaming. You are not fooling yourself. You are practicing the only creative act that brings about change. Imagination clothed in feeling becomes the seed that reality must grow into. To assume is to take upon yourself the state of already being the one you desire to be. You walk, you talk, you think, and you feel as though it were already true. This inner shift sets forces in motion that cannot be seen with the eye, but will soon be undeniable in experience. Think of a child who on the eve of a birthday imagines the gift already his. In his heart he is already playing with it, enjoying it, celebrating it. To him the gift is certain. His joy is not postponed until the morning comes. It is present already because he has assumed it as his own. In the same way, you must claim your desire as though it were already delivered. The moment you feel the reality of it, the seed has been sown. The outer world may take time to rearrange, but the result is inevitable because the assumption has already been impressed upon your subconscious. To wish for something is to admit you do not yet possess it. To assume you already have it is to claim it with the authority of creation itself. Many people fail in this practice because they cling to appearances. They say, "How can I feel wealthy when my bank account is empty? How can I feel loved when I am alone? How can I feel healthy when my body aches?" But this is the very test of faith. If you only assume what you can see, you are not creating. You are merely reflecting. Creation begins by assuming the reality before it is seen. The farmer does not wait to see the crop before planting. He plants in faith that the invisible process of life will bring the harvest. You too must plant in imagination, and by assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you water the seed until it appears as fact. The practice of assumption is the practice of living from the end. Ask yourself, what would it feel like if I were already the person I want to be? How would I walk through the world? What conversations would I have? What thoughts would dominate my mind? Then clothe yourself in that feeling, even for a few moments each day. Do it especially before sleep, when the conscious mind is quiet and the subconscious is most receptive. Enter into the scene of fulfillment as though it were happening now. Feel it deeply, and drift into sleep carrying that state. This is the way to impress the subconscious with the reality of your assumption. Now it is necessary to understand that this law does not work by effort or by struggle. The world teaches that to accomplish anything you must fight, you must exert force, you must push against obstacles. Yet creation itself does not operate by strain. A seed does not wrestle with the soil. The sun does not labor to shine. The tide does not struggle to return. All unfold according to law, with perfect ease. In the same way, your desires do not manifest because of your effort, but because of your assumption. You achieve by aligning yourself inwardly, not by battling outwardly. This is why the law of assumption is more powerful than the law of hard work alone. Effort may accomplish temporary gains, but assumption reshapes reality itself. When you take on the feeling of the wish fulfilled, the events of the world rearrange in ways you could never have orchestrated through sheer force. People will appear at the right time. Doors will open. Circumstances will shift, all without your conscious planning. The invisible bridge of incidents will carry you from where you are to where you have already assumed yourself to be. This bridge is unseen until you walk upon it, and you cannot predict the steps ahead. But if you persist in assumption, the bridge will always appear. Those who rely only on struggle often burn themselves out. They fight circumstance as though it were their enemy, never realizing that circumstance is only the outpicturing of their inner state. To change the outer by effort is to attack the shadow rather than the substance. The shadow may shift temporarily, but it will always return because the source was never altered. True transformation comes not by forcing the world to bend to your will, but by assuming inwardly until the world reflects what you have already accepted. This is the effortless mastery that comes when you live by the law of assumption. When you understand this, you stop asking how something will happen. The how belongs to the unseen intelligence that governs all life. Your task is not to manipulate events, but to assume the end and rest in the knowing that it is already done. By trusting the law of assumption, you release the strain of trying to figure out every step. You allow the unseen hand to guide you. You will find yourself moved into the right place at the right time, meeting the right people, taking the right actions, often without realizing until later how perfectly everything was arranged. This does not mean you sit idle. Action will still come, but it will flow naturally from your state. A person who assumes wealth will naturally think and act in ways that align with wealth. A person who assumes health will naturally choose what supports health. A person who assumes love will naturally radiate love. These actions are not forced. They are the natural outflow of the state you occupy. You are not pushing against the world. You are simply living from the reality you have already accepted, and the world must conform. The difference between effort and assumption is the difference between swimming against a current and being carried by it. Effort wears you down. Assumption lifts you. When you understand that assumption is the creative power, you cease to waste energy on struggle. Instead, you give your attention to the inner state, knowing that when the state changes, the outer must follow. The law cannot fail, for the world is nothing more than the reflection of consciousness. Every achievement you have ever admired began this way. Someone assumed an idea as true and lived from it long before the world confirmed it. They may have appeared bold, unreasonable, or even foolish to others, but within themselves they had already claimed the reality. That inner conviction drew to them the resources, the opportunities, the allies, and even the challenges that shaped the fulfillment. Their outer life became the stage upon which their inner assumption was acted out. This is how every invention, every work of art, every transformation has come to pass. It will be no different for you. When you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you step into the role of creator. When you cease to struggle and live by assumption, you align yourself with the effortless law of life. Together these truths reveal a secret that once grasped can never be forgotten. The world is not something to conquer by force, but something to shape by inner conviction. What you dare to assume, and what you persist in feeling, must in time become the fact of your life. * The moment you dare to imagine a new reality for yourself. The world will almost always present a contradiction. Appearances will rise up and mock the inner vision. Circumstances will parade themselves before you as if to say your dream is impossible. This is where most people falter, because they take the contradiction as a final verdict rather than a temporary illusion. Yet the contradiction is not a sign of failure. It is proof that the seed of your assumption has been planted. When you persist despite appearances, you declare that the inner world is more real than the outer. That persistence is the bridge between the unseen and the seen. It is easy to believe when everything agrees with your desire, but real mastery is proven when you hold fast to the vision in the face of denial. The world may tell you there is no way forward. The evidence may point to defeat. But if you remain faithful to the assumption within, the outer must eventually bow. The shadow cannot dictate to the light that casts it. The outer circumstance cannot dictate to the consciousness that produced it. Persistence is the mark of faith, and faith never fails when it is unshaken. Imagine a sculptor beginning his work with a block of marble. To the untrained eye it looks like nothing, a cold mass without form. But the sculptor sees what others cannot. He sees the figure already complete within the stone. Each strike of his chisel is an act of persistence against the stubbornness of the marble. He does not abandon the vision because the block resists him. He continues until the figure appears. In the same way, when you hold to your inner picture despite the resistance of circumstances, you are chiseling reality into alignment with your assumption. There will be moments when the pressure of contradiction tempts you to abandon the vision. At those times you must remind yourself that appearances are not final. The present moment is only the echo of past assumptions, and like an echo it fades as the new sound takes over. When the contradiction rises, see it not as an obstacle, but as the old state dying away. The new state is already established within you, and if you persist in it, it must eventually dominate the scene. Persistence is not a matter of strain, but of quiet inner knowing. It is the refusal to return to the old state no matter what the outer world shouts at you. Persistence is the test of whether you truly believe imagination creates reality. If you believe the outer world is the source, you will collapse at the first contradiction. But if you believe consciousness is the source, you will smile at contradiction and press forward inwardly. This is why persistence carries with it a certain calmness. It is not frantic or desperate, it is steady. It does not demand instant proof. It trusts the law and allows the process to unfold. With persistence you begin to see the world as clay in the potter's hand, responsive to your inner shaping, no matter how fixed it once appeared. The one who persists does not need applause or confirmation from others, because the vision itself is enough. He knows that every great change in history was once ridiculed before it was revered. The airplane was mocked before it filled the skies. The light bulb was laughed at before it lit every home. The dreamer who persisted made them real. The same law works in the small and personal details of your life. Persist in the vision of health, and health will appear. Persist in the vision of abundance, and abundance will find you. Persist in the vision of love, and love will surround you. Whatever you dare to hold within with persistence must eventually find its expression without. That is the power of silence. When you give birth to a desire, when you assume a new state within yourself, its earliest moments are delicate. Like a seed freshly planted, it requires care and protection. To speak of it too freely, to seek validation from others, is often to expose it to winds that can uproot it before it takes hold. Silence is the shelter in which the seed of your assumption can grow strong. When you keep your inner vision sacred, you are not withholding out of fear, but out of wisdom. You recognize that most people cannot see what you see. They judge by appearances and will project their doubts onto your dream. To share your vision prematurely is to invite those doubts to mingle with your faith. Silence, therefore, is not secrecy for its own sake. It is preservation of power. It allows the energy of your assumption to concentrate rather than scatter. Think of the way a musician practices in private before unveiling a masterpiece, or how a painter sketches alone before revealing the canvas. Creation requires a gestation period where the work is unseen, protected from distraction and noise. Your assumption is no different. The silence you keep around it is the womb in which it grows. The more faithfully you guard it, the stronger it becomes until no contradiction can uproot it. Silence also teaches you to rely inwardly rather than outwardly. When you are silent about your vision, you are forced to draw strength from within rather than from the approval of others. This deepens your conviction, for it rests on your own inner knowing rather than on fragile encouragement. There is great dignity in carrying a dream in silence, knowing it is already real to you even if the world does not yet see it. That dignity radiates power, and the world responds in time. Furthermore, Silence cultivates stillness of mind. In stillness, the imagination works most powerfully. Noise and chatter scatter the creative force, while silence gathers it into focus. A quiet mind can picture clearly, feel deeply, and assume with conviction. In silence, you commune with the unseen, and it is in that communion that your assumption sinks deeply into the subconscious. The one who learns to be silent about his dream has already mastered half the law, for he has learned to value the unseen above the seen. There is also a mysterious strength that grows when you allow the world to discover your achievement. Without forewarning, when your dream becomes fact and others witness it, they are struck with awe, for they did not expect it. That awe often opens doors and creates opportunities that would never have come had you spoken prematurely. Silence not only protects your vision but also amplifies its impact when it manifests. To persist in the face of contradiction and to guard your assumption in silence are two sides of the same coin. Persistence holds the vision steady no matter what appears, while silence nurtures it in secret until it is unshakable. Together they form a shield around the fragile seed of your assumption, allowing it to grow into the undeniable fact of your life. Those who master these two principles find themselves creating with greater ease and certainty, for they no longer waste energy fighting circumstances or explaining themselves to others. They live inwardly, persistently, and silently, knowing that the outer must in time reveal what the inner has already claimed. To live from the end is to step into the reality of your desire, as though it were already accomplished. It is not waiting with hope but walking with certainty. When you live from the end, you bypass the constant state of wanting and enter the state of being. Desire without fulfillment is longing, but desire accepted as present reality is creation. The difference is not in the world outside, but in the consciousness within. When you live from the end, you place yourself in alignment with the truth that what you have assumed inwardly must in time become outward fact. This way of living transforms every detail of your experience. If you assume health, you begin to move as though your body were already whole. If you assume abundance, you carry yourself with the calm confidence of one who is more than enough. If you assume love, you radiate the warmth of one who is already cherished. These inner states alter how you speak, how you act, how you respond, and life must mirror them back to you. Living from the end requires imagination and faith. You must dare to picture the scene of fulfillment and dwell in it with feeling. This does not mean you constantly rehearse the desire itself, but rather you imagine yourself already beyond it. If you seek a new home, you do not picture yourself wanting it. You picture yourself already living in it, arranging the furniture, enjoying the view, inviting friends to visit. If you seek success, you do not dwell on the effort of reaching it. You picture yourself already successful, enjoying the fruits, feeling the gratitude of accomplishment. The more real this state becomes within, the more naturally you begin to inhabit it outwardly. When you live from the end, you are no longer a beggar at the gates of life, hoping to be granted what you desire. You are the owner of the estate, moving confidently through rooms that are already yours. This confidence is not arrogance, it is alignment with truth. The world outside cannot resist the conviction of someone who lives as though the end is already secured. Doors open because the person who lives from the end no longer seeks permission. He has already granted himself permission inwardly, and the world recognizes that authority. To live from the end is to let go of the question of how. The path is not yours to design in every detail. The end is yours to assume. The bridge of incidents, the series of steps that lead from where you are to where you are destined, will unfold naturally once you inhabit the state. Many waste their energy in worry, trying to force the steps, yet the law does not require force. The law requires faith. By living from the end, you allow the unseen intelligence to arrange the details. What looks like chance encounters, unexpected opportunities, or even sudden reversals are simply the rearrangements of the world to carry you to your assumption. This principle frees you from the anxiety of timing. If you are living from the end, then the matter is already settled within. You no longer ask when it will come, because to you it has already come. You live in the joy of it now, and that joy itself becomes the magnet that draws the fulfillment. It is the posture of the mind that matters most. One who assumes the end with conviction is unshaken by delay, because the reality is already alive within. Now to understand the next truth, you must grasp the fact that you are the operant power. Nothing happens in your life without your consent, whether conscious or unconscious. You may not always choose the conditions directly, but you have chosen the state from which the conditions arise. The world is not forcing itself upon you. You are calling it forth by the assumptions you live by. The moment you accept this, you step into full responsibility for your reality. Responsibility may at first feel heavy, but it is the key to freedom. If you created the present state, then you can create the new state. If your assumptions brought you here, then new assumptions can take you higher. Asterisk to be the operant power means you no longer wait for signs. You no longer ask for proof before you believe. You no longer beg life to change. You accept that the authority lies within you. If you desire change, you assume it now and live from it now. The world may seem stubborn, but it is only the delayed echo of past states. Keep your attention fixed on the new state, and the echo must eventually catch up. The operant power is not dependent on conditions. It is not swayed by appearances. It moves with certainty, because it knows that consciousness is cause and the world is effect. Many people fall into the trap of waiting for some external force to move on their behalf. They wait for luck, for circumstances, for other people to change. In doing so, they hand over their power. The operant power never waits. It decides. It assumes. It creates. To understand this is to awaken to your true nature. You are not a passive observer in a hostile world. You are the source from which your world flows. What you dare to assume, the world must reflect, for there is no power outside of consciousness greater than the one imagining within you. This realization carries with it both liberation and challenge. It liberates because it means nothing is truly impossible. The power that shapes the stars is present in your imagination, and no desire is too great when assumed with conviction. But it also challenges because it means excuses no longer hold. You cannot blame fate, luck, or chance. You cannot point to others as the reason for your condition. You must accept that you yourself, by your assumptions, created what you see. Yet this acceptance is the very threshold of transformation. Once you own the fact that you are the operant power, you claim the authority to create anew. To live as the operant power is to recognize that every moment is a new beginning. No matter what has been, you can assume a new state now. The past does not bind you, unless you persist in assuming it does. The chains are only held in place by your acceptance of them. The instant you change your assumption, the chains fall away. You are always free to create again, always free to assume again, always free to step into a new end. This power never leaves you, for it is your very essence. Asterisk when you join the practice of living from the end with the knowledge that you are the operant power, you become unstoppable. You do not waver with appearances, because you already live in the fulfillment. You do not wait for outside permission, because you know the authority lies within. You move through life with quiet confidence, persistent faith, and unshakable conviction. The world bends to that inner certainty, for it has no choice but to echo the assumptions of the one who knows his powered asterisk.